If somebody could let Jason know that Commissioner Mankins is having trouble connecting. I think Jason can probably hear me.
He's having problems connecting?
Yeah, he's not able to get into the meeting. I had trouble getting on too, but I was finally able to get on.
Yeah, because he was just on finance and budget about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, maybe it's the link or something. I'm not sure.
I guess procedurally, can we hold up until people come on?
I think we've given him a couple seconds to, or a couple minutes to let everybody get connected. Yeah, we'll need to wait till someone's in chambers anyway.
I don't think it's your chairman either.
Yeah.
Hello, is my microphone working?
Yes.
It is working, Bill.
Thank you. John, Justin, Patty, welcome aboard. Enjoy everything. It's fun.
Thank you.
If you need anything, send me a text message on the chat over there and I'll do whatever I can to help you out.
Commissioner Frederickson, you might be it.
I'm not sure how Hattie did it, but it looks like she's on here twice.
She might have called in for audio.
Oh, man.
I think sometimes when you log in, you hit the button twice also, it logs you in. There you go.
So we're waiting on Chairperson Shaw.
Mhm. She's at the courthouse too, isn't she?
You hear me, Bill?
If we have people just join us, we're going to hold up just for a little bit, waiting for our Chairman Shaw to get connected.
You get your audio fixed, Commissioner Fish?
Chief Executive Gallagher, did anybody let you know that Cindy's logging in upstairs and having some issues?
We hadn't heard, but I assumed that was happening because I knew she was in the building, so we were waiting for her.
Yeah, we tested on Monday night, so I'm not sure what's going on because it worked fine Monday, but
Commissioner, we cannot hear you. You may have to call in.
Can anybody remote into Jim Fisher's microphone or computer to fix his mic?
I believe he was working with IT folks during finance and budget. I don't know. Apparently they weren't able to help him out.
Not sure what's going to happen a week without hearing Jim. I like his wisdom. I think it let me down.
Okay, can everyone hear me now and see me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, it took a while to get me on here, so I'm in. We're all in.
We're
Okay.
all in. So
Okay.
are we ready to go?
I think we're ready to go. Chief
Yeah,
Executive.
everyone check in, please.
Cindy, just as you're aware, Jim Fisher's having some audio problems. You can see him, but you can't hear him.
Okay. So where are we checking in? We don't have a panel for that. Thank you. Thank you. Judging by the faces, we have 12 present, but I'll wait. And if you mute your screens if you're not talking, thanks.
Was a panel put on? I am not seeing it.
I believe Jason's working on it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. We'll get there. How's everybody doing tonight? Okay?
It's Murphy's Law, right? First,
Oh, of
for
course.
some of us here. Right?
Hey, if this is the worst thing that happens, we're doing good. Okay, everyone please check in. And let's see. Has everyone pressed submit? John Reardon, or Commissioner Reardon, have you checked in? Do you have a panel on the right-hand side of your screen, John? And you're on mute, so. Okay, thank you. It appears we have 12 present and 0 absent.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. I'd like to call and open the Council of Commissioners meeting of January 6, 2021, regular meeting. We already did the roll call, so I'd next like to go to the prayer and the pledge, but we're going to skip the pledge since we're doing this remote. Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sorich. Now I'd like to go to the approval of the minutes for the December 16th, 2020 regular meeting. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the December 16th, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have
Sorry.
approval of the minutes have been approved in second. Do we have anything on the question? Seeing none, could commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And can we have the clerk please record the vote?
We have 11 yay and 1 nay. Is that correct? Can I ask who the nay is? Is it, was Jim able to vote? No. You're on mute, Jim.
Can we do a thumbs up, thumbs down on these votes?
Okay, it's 11 yay and 1 nay.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank
Okay, next on the agenda are items not addressed on the agenda today. We have an addition of communication, or not on agenda for suspension of the rules. We would like to add communication 2021-14. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, in accordance with the provisions of Section 6 of Rule 6 of the Rules of Business of the Council of Commissioners of the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, the council hereby finds that an emergency condition exists, which requires that the council rules be suspended to allow communication number 2021-14 to be added to the agenda of the regular meeting of the council. The reason for the suspension is it's a communication from the Historic Preservation Officer, Mary McCormick, requesting that the council authorize the chief executive to sign the Montana Historic Foundation Grant Program application to assist with replacing the fence at the historic Jacobs House located at 201 West Street. This communication was inadvertently not submitted by the deadline for January 6th agenda. However, in order to meet the deadline for the submission of this grant application, Ms. McCormick is requesting that this matter be added to tonight's agenda. So at this time, I would move to approve the suspension of the rules to consider placing communication 2021-14 on the agenda at the January 6, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Could we have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Could we please have the clerk record the vote?
Do we have a vote not
We missing?
11? Can we see who did not vote yet? Jason?
Commissioner Shaw, it looks like Commissioner Fisher dropped off.
Okay, that would make sense. Guess he can't vote. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Shea. You're right. Looks like we lost Commissioner Fisher. So I think we'll just have to take the 11 yay, and that's about all we can do.
And just put no answer for,
Yeah, no answer for Commissioner Fisher because he's not able to vote. So that's a first. I can't imagine how we're supposed to do that. Anyway, that's the answer. That's my final answer. Okay,
motion passes.
thank you.
Move on to the second item to be added to, that is not addressed on tonight's agenda. We'd like to add communication 2020-15. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you. 2021-15. In accordance with the provisions of Section 6 of Rule 6 of the Rules of Business of the Council of Commissioners of the City and County of Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, the council hereby finds that an emergency condition exists which requires that the council rules be suspended to allow Communication 2021-15 to be added to the agenda of the regular meeting of the council. And the reason again on this is a communication from Public Works Director Mark Neary requesting that the council authorize the chief executive to sign 2 separate agreements, one with WEX Inc. and one with Town Pump in regard to a fleet fuel card and a management system which will allow for retail fuel purchases to be made by city county employees issued a fuel card. This has to be added on now because due to the holidays, the agreements were not finalized prior to the deadline. However, in order to provide enough time for the fleet cards to be issued by the deadline, we would have to add this to tonight's agenda. And I believe we do have Public Works Director Mark Neary on the line if he would like to explain anything further. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion. Mr. Neary.
Thank you, Chairman Shaw, Chairwoman Shaw.
Just call me Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, okay.
There you
Thank you. You explained it thoroughly that we had, with the holidays, we couldn't get the contract agreed upon in the language that we needed in there. And it is time sensitive because of the Parrot Phase 2 has already been bid out and the relocation of the shop. So it's just kind of a time sensitive deal. That's why we needed to get it.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Neary? Seeing none, I will move to approve suspension of the rules to consider placing communication number 2021-15 on the agenda at the January 6, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything on the question? Would the commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote?
I see Commissioner Fisher is on the line. If he would like to give us a thumbs up. He can't. So as it stands, it's 11 yea, 0 nay.
Anyone no participant?
Chairman Shaw, the communication prior to this, Jim was back on and he gave us a thumbs up for that one.
Okay, we will retroactively add him in for the previous. And then a thumbs up, Jim, for this one? Okay, thank you, Jim. All right, so now we have a full 12 men council, woman council voting for this, 12 yea, 0 nay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I think on that last clarification, it looked like Commissioner Reardon was the one that didn't vote.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Reardon, is there a thumbs up? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Frederickson.
Okay, motion
Okay.
passed. Okay, moving on. And tonight I'll give my first ever chief executive report. First off, I'm honored and humbled to be the new chief executive of Butte-Silver Bow and a little nervous running my very first meeting. Hopefully we keep it in the right order. But, I also want to congratulate Hattie Thatcher and Justin Fortune and John Reardon for being new board council members, along with the other 3 members that were voted in as well, with Commissioner Sorge, Commissioner Fisher, and Commissioner Callahan joining our already esteemed commission. So this has been quite a ride. I'm learning as we go what a busy job this is, and I'm really excited about the future. One of the things and why I ran for this position was to really be an active participant in government. And so that's why I've done that. And I just want to, kind of present a couple of things that I really want to do as I take over here. And, I guess our very first thing, and many of you know, I participated in a meeting with community members, small business owners the other day, and I was able to listen to some of the concerns and frustrations. And it really showed that, we have big jobs to do here, and we have to listen to our constituents, but we, as a government body, have to look out for the well-being of our community. And so we have to make a lot of tough decisions here, and I know that they're not always going to be easy, but I appreciate everything that everyone must do. So, the very first thing is we got to get through this COVID and work hard to address the concerns and keep people safe and support our staff that is working so hard for there. We have other things that are coming up, and I'm not going to go into detail of other things, but, with the super fund and the consent decree, we must, just be precise on our execution of it and be diligent on how we apply and utilize and implement the CD wisely. And so that's going to be a challenge for us here, and we're going to be watching it closely. And I'm just, like I said, excited about the future for Butte-Silver Bow. We're going to get through this all together. First meeting jitters on the way, but we're going to move on from here. So with that, I'll close my chief executive's report, and we will go on to the next item on the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is any public comment on items on the agenda for tonight. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Do we have any calls? Looks like we are looking, and give it a minute or two. Anybody can call in for public comment at 497-5009. Okay. Welcome to the Council of Commissioners meeting. Would you please give us your name and address for the record?
Hi, good evening. My name is Cindy Ruby-Dolan. Today, a lot of you know who I am.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. Madam Chair. So Cindy Ruby-Dolan, 2810 Hamilton Street. Tonight I'll be commenting on Section 3, Communication number 21-12. My comments are not personal about either Chief Executive or JP Gallagher or Jim Campbell. Both are fine men who are serving our community. As a former Butte-Silver Commissioner for District 1, my comments are strictly related to the current Butte-Silver budget in the future, and looking out for the local taxpayers of the city county. I am speaking for myself as a resident of Butte, a homeowner, and a taxpayer. The position you have asked on is called Administrative Aid/Chief of Staff for the Chief Executive, and the council is being asked to fund the position at $75,000 benefits to provide for all employees. I read the job description for the day attached to my agenda. However, there are no administrative clerical tasks listed for Mr. Campbell to do. So that will require council commissioners to hire confidential executive assistants like Liz Karen or former Chief Executive James Palmer at some point in the very near future. Will both men need executive assistants to type their loan letters, type up their own communications for commission meetings, or answer constituent phone calls? If not, that will mean 2 more full-time employees and at least $106,000 in salary, plus the cost of insurance and other benefits. That is based on Ms. Khan's current $53,000 per year salary. The job description also has cause for concern and should have Butte-Silver commissioners asking questions tonight before you vote. Please look at Exhibit A. Under duties, it says, quote, direct support of the chief executive, strategically managing, helping manage chief executive's time, working with assistants. But there is not an assistant yet. Also, under hiring and management of chief executive office, it says, quote, the chief of staff will be in on hiring and interviews and managing others in the office. It goes on, this may include clerks, executive assistants, special project managers, or others. This raised a red flag for me as far as staff and how much money Butte-Silver has for additional staff. As of today, the only actual staffers within the Butte-Silver Chief Executive Office has been the chief and his assistant. How many folks are there going to be in the office in the future? I would ask you as our commissioners to ask a few questions before you vote tonight. How many people are there going to be in this office? Does Butte-Silver really need a chief of staff for a county this size? And what will the chief executive do while Mr. Cambich is in Helena lobbying during the legislative session? And finally, will it truly be revenue neutral when all is said and done? Right now, I'm worried that this one hire will lead to many others that Butte-Silver simply cannot afford. Thank you for your time tonight, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for your comments. Okay. Would you please welcome to the Council of Commissioners meeting? Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is William People. I live at 1509 Butte-Silver Homes.
Okay. Go ahead and give your comment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Executive and Council of Commissioners. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. I'm speaking to Communication 21-4. I am the chairperson for the steering committee of this particular council, and I'm in support of the resolution that we have put forward so that we can operate this particular council more efficiently and effectively. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Demetrius. We're waiting to see if there are any other calls. Okay. Looks like that's the end of our call-ins for this part of our agenda. Chief Executive Gallagher.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. We'll move on to section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and or presentations. Tonight we have one bid opening. Commissioner Shaw. Oh, wait, I read this. Sorry.
Go. You're fine. You're doing great.
Okay. We have a bid opening with communication number 21-11. Karen Burns, Community Development Director, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence and authorization for Chief Executive to approve the 2020 Economic Mill Levy Fund proposals be opened on Wednesday, January 6, 2021 at the Council of Commissioners regular meeting. And I believe we will go to Commissioner Callahan to open the bid for Karen Burns, the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. The first one out of the chute is Butte Local Development Corporation. The second one is Alpha Technology LLC. The third one is Montana Gaelic Culture Society. The next one is the World Museum of Mining. Next one is Uptown Hip Frame Tree Grapes. Next one is Mule Tours. Next one is Mother Lode Theater. Next one is Spirit of Columbia Gardens Foundation. Next one is High Ore Ceramics. And the next three are all from Main Street Uptown Butte Incorporated. And that's it for the bids for the economic development.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. I missed a step here, and I guess I need to ask County Attorney Joyce for proof of publication.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. There was proof of publication, and it does appear to be in order.
Okay, and so now we go through all opening of all the bids.
Chief Executive, Chief Executive Gallagher.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you. So at this time, I would move to refer all of these bids back to our Economic Development Committee. And at that time, they will review those items and they will put together a plan to hear all the proposals. They have a process they will go through at this point in time.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on moving these back to Economic Development Committee. Is there anything on the question? Could we have commissioners please vote?
Commissioner O'Neill has a question.
Oh, I did not see him. He doesn't pop up on my. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thanks, Chief Executive Gallagher. Do we not read the amounts yet? Or does that come after it goes to the committee? Just a question. Thank you.
I was told, excuse me,
Commissioner
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner O'Neill, I understood from Karen Burns that all we needed to do at this point in time is just open up the bids and just name the proposals. And that was just by her direction. And then, like I said, we will get a recommendation back to this body from the committee, the Economic Development Committee. I believe that's how it works. And she's not here tonight, Karen, so I'm just speaking on her behalf. Thanks.
It looks like Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I guess there was one more over here that is Let's Recover Butte Project. That was the final one. I apologize. We missed that one.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan.
What was that called again, Dan? I'm sorry.
The Let's Recover Butte Project.
Thank you. So you have a motion on the floor, right?
There's a motion and a second, and that we're on the question. We have another one.
Just to follow up.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry I'm not trying to beat it down. A bid opening is a bid opening. So I'm confused why we would open other bids and not these ones. I'm fine with it to move forward, moving on, but just doesn't make sense to me. So just wanted to give my heartfelt spill on that. But we'll move on to that. So thank you.
All right.
Commissioner
any other comments?
Yep.
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Lady Chair. Commissioner O'Neill, I kind of agree with you. I think, even if we were just to put the amounts down, because I think typically, we have a bid opening, we get the price, and then we send it back to the committee to have it reviewed, and then have it, send it back to us. That's kind of typically how we've done it.
Mm-hmm. JP, I think Commissioner Anderson has a question.
Commissioner Anderson. A lot of these aren't popping up on my screen.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I believe the reasoning behind this is that the body will set the amount at a later time when we review it. They give us what they would like to receive, but we will be setting that amount, whereas the traditional bid opening, it's a hard amount where we choose one. We're not really choosing one. Mm-hmm. We're selecting what each one will get, so there's no real amount set to what these will be. Some will be zero, some will be somewhere in between. And so I believe that's why she just wanted the names read at this point in time.
It looks like Commissioner Shea has a comment.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. So these are the individuals that are applying for the Economic Mill Levy Grant. So these individuals are applying to receive money out of that grant. The Economic Development Committee will actually be reviewing these proposals and awarding monies based on their recommendations. And that being said, I do believe that County Attorney Joyce has something to say. Thank you.
County Attorney Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Shea's accurate. This and Commissioner Anderson, this isn't a standard bid opening in terms of you selecting a lowest bid. There was a request for proposals put out for any entities that were interested in receiving this economic mill levy money to submit a proposal. In the past, however, when we have done this process, Commissioner O'Neill is correct. We typically do list or read into the public record the amount that each entity is requesting, and then the economic development committee of the council goes through all those and determines the amount of money that they're going to award and how much they're going to give to each entity.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Anyone else with any questions? Seeing none, we have Commissioner Shea.
Sorry. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. So I guess we could ask Commissioner Callahan if he can read the amounts that are requested, or those listed on the proposals there. They should be fairly easy to see. I think that's what County Attorney Joyce was getting at, just the total amounts without going into the details of the proposals. Is that what the body is requesting?
Commissioner Callahan.
I'm willing to do what you guys direct me to do.
I think that's what would satisfy the body in this moment.
Okay.
Is that what we want, Chairman Shaw?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Callahan, just don't shoot the messenger. I just, what Karen told me, but I don't think there's any problem whatsoever in telling what the amounts were. And in the past, we have done that, but I was just, like I say, following what she said.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Go for it.
The amounts. All right. Thank you. The Let's Discover Butte project is requested $40,000. The Alpha Technology LLC is requested $25,000.
4 or 5? 45? Okay.
25. 25.
Got it.
Butte Local Development Corporation is requesting $10,000. The World Museum of Mining is requesting $1,445. Uptown Headframe Tree Grates is requesting $6,200. Montana Gaelic Culture Society is requesting $3,000. The Mule Tour is requesting $12,000. The Motherlode Theater is requesting $25,000. Spirit of the Columbia Gardens Carousel Foundation is requesting $15,675. And the High Ore Ceramics is requesting $3,100. Main Street Uptown Butte's first proposal is requesting $7,500. Main Street Uptown Butte's second proposal is requesting $25,000. And the third proposal for Main Street Uptown Butte is $5,000. And that will be the last.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. So I'm wondering, do we need to have another motion to be had here? Commissioner Shaw?
Mr. Chief Executive, the motion is to simply refer those proposals, which include everything you've just heard,
Okay,
to
so
the Economic Development Committee, and then they'll come back to this body with their recommendation. So that should stand fine.
thank you, Commissioner Shaw.
You bet.
So with that, we had a motion and a second to refer this back to community development. And so is there anything else on the question before we move forward?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorge, it looks like, has a question. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Callahan, how much money do you have to split up?
Well, I'm not sure that we know yet. Maybe if Karen Burns is on here, we don't know how much money wasn't used last year
Gideon's not starting.
that we would add to this year's mill levy. So that's some information we still have to sit down with Karen Burns and find out.
So,
Oh, is Karen there?
no, Danette's here.
Oh, Danette's here. Danette can answer that question. Please.
I think Chief Executive Gallagher's muted, but I think he was calling on me.
Yeah, sorry about that, Danette. Finance and Budget Director Gleason.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Callahan, if you recall that we had a primary election that included the ballot on 1 mil economic development levy. So it was up to 1 mil. So that's all you have to spend. And so that amount is $68,500.
Thank you, Danette. Anything else on the question?
I got a question.
I don't see who that is.
Commissioner Callahan.
Commissioner Callahan.
I guess my question would be to Danette, the stuff that wasn't used last year because of COVID, I was under the understanding that it could be carried over to the following year. Is that not true?
Director Gleason.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Callahan, all the funds from last year that were allocated out were by the end of the fiscal year distributed to those entities. And I think they reported back that some of those funds were still being held by the particular entities, not by Butte-Silver in their reserve funds to be spent this year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments? Seeing none, can we have the commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And can we have the clerk please record the vote?
It looks like we have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Moving on to section 2, consent agenda. This is for call for any friendly amendments on this. So we will go to section A, 1 through 4, section B, 1 through 11, with the addition of communication 2021-14 and communication 2021-15.
Excuse me, Chief Executive Gallagher. Actually, we will add those two in after the consent agenda. They're not part of the consent agenda.
Oh, they're not
added
part
in.
of the-
We do
Okay.
them afterwards. Yeah, we're good.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So with that, do we have any friendly amendments or segregations? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I have a friendly amendment, which is in section B, communication number 6 is 21-6. And I simply need to make a correction on a spelling of a name. So if you look at communication 21-6 there on page 2, Carol Griff should be Carol Grigg, Grigg. And I would just like to make that friendly amendment. And then I also have I have one segregation, which would be item 4. This is in consent agenda communications B, item 4, 21-4. That's my segregation.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Any other segregations? Seeing none, I'll call for approval of section 1, bid openings, or section 2 consent agenda, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Section A, 1 through 4, and section B, 1 through 11 with
That's good.
number 4. Okay, segregated. Can I call for a vote?
Okay, Commissioner Shaw here.
Oh, Commissioner Shaw,
That's
sorry.
okay. This is the hardest part of the meeting, and you're doing great. So I move to approve section 2 consent agenda A 1 through 4 and B 1 through 11, with the exception of item 4, communication number 21-4.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Anything on the question? Can we have the commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And can we have the clerk please record the vote?
We have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Thank you. All right, so we go to segregation of communication number 4, 21-4. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. And usually we'd have you read that, but I will do that because I forgot to tell you that was one of the little items. So Demetrius Fasas, BSB Behavioral Health Local Advisory Council Streeting Committee, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for the introduction of the attached resolution, which would repeal resolution number 15-45 and allow for the reformation of a more effective LAC structure. That's the Local Advisory Council. I just kind of missed the boat on this one when I made my recommendation. It's partly right. It says refer to judiciary, but actually it's asking us to authorize the introduction of the attached resolution. So what I'm going to ask to do is to concur with their request to introduce that resolution and authorize the county attorney to put that in to be introduced and attached into the Judiciary Committee. So does that make sense? So they just asked to introduce a new resolution. So what I'm going to do is, if there's no questions about this, I would like to concur with communication 21-4 and authorize the county attorney to introduce the attached resolution and hold this in the committee of the whole. So we won't lose the communication. We'll just wait for the resolution to come through.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we
That was
have
mine, huh?
we have a motion and a second on concur to introduce and refer to the county attorney to refer to judiciary. Am I correct on what I'm saying there?
And hold it in the committee of the whole.
And hold it in the committee of the whole. Is there anything on the question? Okay, can I have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, can we please have you record the vote?
We have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Motion passes. All right, moving on to section 3, communications to be
So
read.
first, excuse me, Mr. Chief Executive, we need to add those two. Okay.
So now we add the two. Okay.
Right.
Now we move to add the 2 communications that were added to the consent agenda today. And do I read the communications or just the numbers, or do I just
the number?
Okay. For the communication 2020-14, Commissioner.
It's actually 2021.
2021-14. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. 2021-14 is a communication from the Historic Preservation Officer, Mary McCormick, requesting that we authorize signing the Historic Foundation Grant Program. And I would concur with communication 2021-14 and place this on file.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to concur and place this on file, and we have a second. Is there anything on the question? Seeing no questions, could I have the commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And can we have the clerk please record the vote?
We have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Second agenda item to be added to the consent agenda today is Communication 2021-15. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. 2021-15 is a communication from Public Works Director Mark Neary requesting that we authorize the Chief Executive to sign these two separate agreements with Wex Inc. and with Town Pump for the fleet fuel cards and management system. So I would concur with Communication 2021-15 and place this on file. Do I hear a second?
Second. Sorry.
That's okay.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place this on file. Is there anything on the question? Would the commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, will you please record the vote?
We have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Now moving on to Section 3, communications to be read and acted upon. Communication number 21-12, JP Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council Commissioners concurrence and authorization to sign the contract with Jim Cambage. The contract is based on Mr. Cambage's experience, education, and duties that will be assigned by the Chief Executive. So I'll call on discussion with the Council. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Shaw.
Chief Executive Gallagher, maybe you could just give a little bit of a, thumbnail of what's going on here. I think everyone would probably like to hear that first. Thanks.
Sure. I think part of it is a confusion of how this will work, and with having Cindy Purdue Dolan call in, I want to clear up any confusion of what this contract will be and why I have recommended to have this contract put in place with Mr. James Cambage. I want to refer to the Section 4-02, Powers and Duties of the Chief Executive. It's under 15, item C, and it is the Chief Executive may appoint one administrative aide qualified by training or experience to assist in the supervision and operation of the local government. However, this section shall not be appointed of department heads, which will be done pursuant to Section 4-2 D of this charter. Such administrative aid shall be answerable only to the Chief Executive. And so, with reading that, and as I was looking at what I was looking for in my appointed position, it says it right in here that they assist in helping supervise and work within the local government. And part of the rationale for my appointment to what I call a chief of staff, but is still an administrative aide, is to do exactly what I said, is to be more available in the government. To being in this job only 3 days, and truthfully over the last month and a half out meeting with people and stuff, the chief executive could be booked morning through night, 3 meetings every hour of every day. This offers an availability of a representative of the chief executive staff to help with that, to be a participant in the department head meetings, also head up with projects. We talk about lobbying many times. This body has to authorize money to be used to lobby at the state level during the legislative session. So as I was looking at this, I know that the salary is brought up. Truthfully, it is budget neutral and a decrease in some of the general budget. As you guys well know, that we lost a position here on a resignation just in the last week, in a fantastic person that had a lot of skills, but decided to step away to be a mom. So that position is left open, and this position could assume some of those project management skills that we have along there. Also, there's 2 PBX secretarial positions that have been vacant due to people leaving. Of those, they have not been replaced. We do have 1 person in that role that we have hired from a temp agency. So with this position, and also looking at my structure my salary, and I declined to take insurance. That's a $20,000 savings to the general budget as well, that we more than cover this position through the budget. And there, I worked with Finance and Budget Director Gleason to look to see where money was available. But really, there wasn't a lot that we needed to find available within the Chief Executive's budget that has already been approved through this. In answering the question that Cindy Perdue-Dolan asked about, is that what are the responsibilities, and are we going to continue to increase the staff here? We will increase the staff by one clerk position in the Chief Executive's office here. That would be under the PBX funding source. That will not increase the budget either, because we have two that are missing out of there. We are down the special projects PIO position that was here. So this one fills a lot of void out there for us. And as I said, this is going to be the Chief Executive's assistant that is working alongside them, not a person that's going to be running the office. I've had people say that I was the one voted in and not Mr. Cambridge. And the charter authorizes myself to have an aide here. Now, because that other chief executives didn't put in a position of this, they put it more in a clerk position, does not change the way the charter reads and the ability of the chief executive to allow this in there. The budget authority has already been approved throughout the year. I think it's a vital position. Mr. Cambridge brings to this body and to this government a wealth of knowledge, experience. He's led major nonprofit business. He's worked in local government. He's lobbied at the state level, the federal level. He's worked amongst most everybody in here and has just a wealth of knowledge that you just can't find in most people off the street. So that is what the salary was based off of. And so with that, I'll entertain any questions that people have going forward. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. So my first question is, you had mentioned in your letter, or somewhere along the line, I saw that you thought the proposed salary was low. And so I was wondering where the salary comp came from, where you got your salary comps from.
So when you look, sorry, Commissioner Shea, sorry.
Thank you.
Do it. When I looked around at other communities, most all our size, larger, smaller, have assistants that are there. So I kind of made comparisons in the 7 largest counties. The people that are at the assistant level to a chief executive, or not, most aren't chief executives, mayors or our managers, city managers and things, the assistants to them are significantly higher than what we're proposing here. And so I look at these duties different than a clerk type position. They take on a lot more responsibility and a lot more representation of the government out in our departments in the community. And as I said, this allows us to be more present out in the community and be able to bring these things back together. I've said this to a couple people. Most people that know me and when I work, I'm an early riser. I like to come in early. And whenever you're in an administrative position, 7 o'clock to about 8 o'clock in the morning is the best time to get anything done, because once the doors open and the community is allowed in, your day changes drastically. And that's where this new position, we will caucus in the morning, go over anything that was done the previous day, and we'll move on with the schedule for the next day. And to me, this is a vital position, and I don't say anything negative about previous chief executives about how they put a person in this, but I think this is one will benefit Butte-Silver Bow and absolutely help the chief executive's office as we go forward, because government has grown, as you guys have known, just since, pretty much everybody except for maybe the newest three. It's bigger. There's a lot more expectation on the government, and we want to make sure that we're representative of what we can do for them.
Okay.
Follow up.
Follow up, please. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. So my question is, it sounds like you're planning to cut the PBX positions and absorb them into this position, correct?
Commissioner Shea, the duties of the PBX, if you look back even with Chief Executive Palmer previous, the PBX positions were working under the Chief Executive's office in here. The one that had the resignation recently was working directly out of that, although it was coming out of the PBX budget, but was a direct report to the Chief Executive. The PBX positions were direct reports to Chief Executive Palmer's aide at that time. So it really doesn't change much, but we actually are reducing positions and absorbing some of the duties that were in there.
Okay, follow up. So follow up, thank you. My understanding is those are union positions, and I'm wondering if you've discussed that with the union.
I've discussed it with personnel, and we are going to be working with the union, because anytime there's a position that has a change, that they add two of the union representatives plus two people from the government that will review the job and determine what that position would be. So that would go out in the next few days with HR. Any other questions?
Chief Executive Gallagher, I don't know if you can see Hattie Thatcher Commissioner Thatcher has her hand up.
I can't hear, but okay, Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I just have a few questions. I'm just looking at the employment contract right now. And I guess where my confusion lies is, all of the job description, you say that there's more tasks associated with the chief of staff position. So I guess where my confusion lies is, why in the contract would it be called an administrative aide? And if so, why would the person not be paid accordingly, just as the former administrative aides have been paid?
Commissioner Thatcher, that's a good question, but it is based on experience and the duties that I will be assigning, and the chief executive has the authority to assign that are above and beyond what the current aides were in the past. I don't think that this position has been utilized to the fullest of what it's written in the charter when it talks about supervision of people in department head, departments and operation of local government. Most of the previous admin assistants have been done more in a clerk position, and it went to a contract position recently so that these don't carry over within a clerk job, so that when this person is put into place, they come and go with the chief executive without guarantee of another position. I also, within this contract, different than the contracts in the past, there is a 6-month probation period on here, just like there would be for any other position in the government, which wasn't in the contract previous to this with the other ones. And I'll just follow up one more thing. And also, we will put in a yearly evaluation. And so those things are things to make sure that we are, that we're getting the most out of this position. I feel very strongly that we have that right now. Commissioner Thatcher.
Okay, so you actually led right into my next question. It does say, the contract says a yearly review and evaluation of this position, and upon a determination that the employee has satisfactorily performed the job duties. What is considered satisfactory? Is there a performance measure that somebody is going to reveal that, who or is it just you that's doing the performance, or how's that going to work?
Commissioner Thatcher, good question, but by the charter, this is a position that answers solely to the chief executive. So that would be an evaluation of the chief executive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I think I would like to call on a couple of our department heads just to give a little bit of a background on how the legislative branch works with, or also separately, because we are separate divisions of the government, the executive, administrative side, and the legislative. So first of all, I was going to ask Eileen Joyce to just tell us what exactly is our duty by the charter as far as contracts, MOUs, leases, the kind of thing that we are asked to approve this evening.
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shaw. So, yeah, what is before the council obviously is this contract. And as indicated by the Chief Executive, he does have the authority under the charter to appoint an administrative aide. The reason that this appointment is being looked at by the council is because it's a contract. And the reason that we have decided to, over the past few years, as alluded to by the Chief Executive, entered into these employment contracts with the administrative aide that's appointed by each Chief Executive is so that, again, it's tied to the Chief Executive. These people don't apply for the position. They don't compete for the position. They're appointed by the Chief Executive. And as we have the possibility of having a new Chief Executive every 4 years, it becomes potentially cumbersome on the local government to have an employee that's just appointed by one Chief Executive and is a at-will employee, passes a probationary period, and then becomes a full-time employee of Butte-Silver Bow. And then when that Chief Executive isn't reelected, we have to find a position for that employee because they are not a full-time employee of Butte-Silver Bow. So over the past several years, with starting with, I think, Chief Executive Vincent and with Chief Executive Palmer, and now with Chief Executive Gallagher, we have asked the person who is appointed as their administrative aide to enter into a employment contract that has a specific term of employment, and it's tied to the term of the Chief Executive. As Chief Executive Gallagher indicated, in this case, he wanted the term of the contract to begin with a 6-month period and then allow him to do an evaluation, and then it's automatically renewed for an additional 6 months if Mr. Cambridge satisfactorily performs his job duties, and then can be automatically renewed for 3 one-year periods, which would be the total first term of Mr. Gallagher's Chief Executive term. So again, back to Commissioner Shaw's question, every contract that the Chief Executive enters into the council is supposed to give him authorization to sign those contracts. And so it is a ability for the council to know when the local government's entering into contracts that what kind of work, is being done, and whether or not we obviously have the budgetary authority to be able to fulfill the obligations set forth in the various contracts that come before this body.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see everybody's screen, so if I miss you, I apologize.
Commissioner Frederickson has his hand up, and I think Commissioner O'Neill also.
Okay, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I don't really have a question. I just want to make a comment. First off, I respect Mr. Cambridge, and I have no doubt he is qualified for this position. My issues have nothing to do with Mr. Jim Cambridge. My issues stem from the fact that the proposed salary is comparable to Butte-Silver Bow elected positions and directors. And I will point out, including the Parks and Recreation Director salary is pretty close to this proposed salary. My concern about the message this sends to other elected officials and department heads and the ramifications that this could have on future budgets. So thank you.
Commissioner Frederickson, I'd just like to address that a little bit. And that was kind of what I did look at closely on what it is in a department head. Assistants to many of the department heads are right at this salary level. This is a high level position. If you look at the chief executive's office, we are responsible for the whole government. The job requirements that I'm requesting of this person in this job is very high level at the least in this. And so that I did look at that closely, and I understand that. And I'm open to answering any of those questions with department heads and things as I look to set this salary schedule. But a lot of it was based on comparable salaries throughout the state in governments of our size with assistants. And then also looking at the responsibilities that go along with this and the education experience that he had. I think he's worth the salary that I've proposed.
I believe Commissioner O'Neill has his hand up.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. My question's on the lobbying. I keep hearing I forgive me, I didn't realize that we sent somebody from our clan here or anywhere and to go up and lobby it. So help me out on what I understand he has that experience. Where does that help us right now? And how many people from Butte-Silver Bow at times go up to the legislature and lobby for our town?
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. To answer your question there, we have in the past lobbied at the legislative level anytime that a bill that is proposed to have representation for Butte-Silver Bow, because there will be legislation that may affect Butte-Silver Bow. The legislature body has changed, and Helena has changed dramatically. And so we look at the bills that are being proposed, and if they could have an effect on how it would affect Butte-Silver Bow, our local government, grant programming, things that directly affect our government. We want to be representative over there. We work with our legislatures from Butte-Silver Bow together, and when you got to go and speak in front of in the council chambers, legislative body chambers over there, it's important that we're there anytime they bring the committees together. So that's where that comes from. In the past, I think most people remember J.D. Lynch. We compensated people through this body, through the budget to lobby for Butte-Silver Bow, and most, if not all, of the previous chief executives and their staffs and people working within Butte-Silver Bow government go over and lobby. I know that Karen Burns does as well. I hope that answers your question.
I see Commissioner Sorge has his hand up.
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I've got two comments. My first comment is probably also for Mr. O'Neill. I know in the years past, we used to hire an outside lobbyist at times. And then also, I think we used to rely on Senator Cecil, quite heavily to kind of keep us apprised of what's going on in Helena also. So, and he's not going to be there. So that's a positive. I do have some concerns about, at this time, the position is budget neutral. I'm just really concerned. I'm hoping that we can keep it that way. I'm concerned that the positions that are being eliminated, that somewhere down the line we're going to find we need them, because I don't know how long they've been there. So, that's just one of my concerns.
Sorry, Commissioner Shaw, we were on mute there for a second. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. So I agree with Commissioner Frederickson that there's nothing personal about Jim Cambage. I've known him for a long time. He comes with a lot of credentials. I'm not saying that he isn't worth $75,000, but we are the legislative branch and we hold the purse strings, and that's why we approve contracts. We can only really look at the budgetary authority in the contract. It's not for us to do your micromanage your staffing. I mean, that's the administrative side of things. And you are entitled to having a staff member. So I have questions for Danette Gleason, but I will ask first of you, Chief Executive Gallagher. You said you had budget authority approved, and I really don't know what that is. I think the elephant in the room is, where is this money coming from? And just two other things. You said that the special projects manager, that there is an opening, but I believe that's an IT position. And I don't believe that that is available to use for the chief executive's budget, I don't think. And then the other one is we had a PIO, that's our public information officer. I thought Justin was our public information officer. I don't think that has gone away. So those are my questions, little mystery questions. And I'll ask you first, JP, but then I will ask Danette if she could weigh in. Thank you for multiple questions.
Commissioner Shaw, I'll try to answer the questions that you have there. I agree. You have budget. You guys oversee the budgets and can look at that. How I say that we have budget authority is that there's a couple things even without going to the PBX positions at all. One is the non-taking of insurance. That's $20,000 savings automatically right into that would normally come out of this budget that was budgeted for Chief Executive Palmer when he was there. So this half the year and going forward, that's a savings in a year of $20,000. The other part is that there's $16,000 that is available within the chief executive's budget that is there that I went through with Danette, transferring from one of the other budget line items within the chief executive's budget. What I didn't want to do is I didn't want to skirt the system here because of it. If we went to a contracted, just a regular hiring position, we could do that, and I would have the authority to bring this person on without putting it in front of council. But I think it's important that we do this so that these positions don't continue to have employment when they're appointed by one person. I think that's kind of a critical thing, and that's most of these positions throughout governments are done that way. I know it's new to Butte-Silver Bow, the way that I'm looking at this, but the way I read the charter is it was designed to be a much higher level position than what we've utilized it at recently. And if you read through that, it's saying supervising and working with the government there. So that's why we're where we're at. As far as the PBX, the other positions they're in, they are out of IT, but they are supervised directly by Chief Executive Palmer's aide that was in here, and all that supervision, and so was that special projects person, and they also had a title, just a hyphen in there of the PIO as well. She helped out with announcements to the press as well. So that would be an evaluation if that should be replaced or not. I think we've been looking at that throughout most of our positions. I hope that answered your question.
Follow up.
Yeah.
My follow up is to call on our Finance and Budget Director, Danette Gleason. I would like to ask her about the budget authority.
Okay, Director Gleason.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Madam Chair Shaw. As Chief Executive Gallagher just stated, I did an analysis of the budget authority and then the requirements to add this contract in there. There would be a shortfall of $15,197 within the salaries and benefits line item. However, as Chief Executive Gallagher alluded, I gave him some different options or scenarios that he could look at to choose from. And one of them was doing a budget transfer from the professional service line item within the Chief Executive's budget. That line item has $16,359 in it. that would be an option to move that. And then we also talked about, I just want to touch base maybe first on the PBX budget versus the positions that we're alluding to in the IT department. So the PBX budget is listed underneath finance and budget and in the IT. But over the years, it's went back and forth between being supervised by the chief executive's office, Corey. Originally, that's how it started. Corey Johns, underneath former chief executive Matt Vincent, supervised those PBX positions, and then it transitioned back to the finance and budget department and the IT department shortly when chief executive or former chief executive Palmer came on. And then about a year into his tenure, the positions were removed back or sent back to the chief executive's budget or chief executive department, and Karenisa Khan supervised those positions until recently. Those positions are in a separate budget than the position that we're talking about in regards to the project manager / PIO or assistant with PIO. I can't remember the title of it. I'm sorry.
Public Information Officer.
Yeah, I don't really think that we labeled that position that way because Jason is our PIO officer right now, Jason Parrish, in the IT department. So I think we're kind of confusing the job titles, but that's not the point. The point is there is a vacant position, but that position is not in the PBX budget. That position is in the IT budget, the direct IT budget. But it was supervised by the chief executive because it shared duties. 50% of the job duties were to manage projects for the IT department and then other various departments across the county. The one that you're most familiar with would be the Acela project. We, by contract, had to supply a project manager for that project. And then Acela hired Sidwell, another company, as their project manager. So that was a contract requirement. So that position was doing that job about 50% of the time, as well as doing other project management, such as our record retention project, who she was at that time working with Jason Parrish in our IT department for that record repository project. So in a nutshell, I guess I just want to let you know that, yes, we have evaluated the budget. And there is budget authority just in the existing chief executive's budget to move up in to cover the salaries and benefits without any other changes that would have to be made. It's just some different scenarios that we were looking at.
Just one follow-up, Chief Executive Gallagher, if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just the bottom line is this so-called budget neutral is in fact means that there's no impact on the taxpayers. We are not going to increase taxes in any way. Is that correct, Annette?
Chief Executive Gallagher, Madam Chair Shaw, if the budget transfer comes within the general fund of the chief executive, out of the 350 line item up into the salaries and benefits line item, there'll still be about $1,100 available in excess.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Shea has her finger up.
Commissioner Shea, I'm sorry, I can't, it doesn't show on my screen. I apologize.
I know, and I tried to move my hand thinking maybe that'll get someone's attention. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I know, thank you. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. So I don't doubt that there's budgetary authority there now. We have a very talented budget director, and I really appreciate her efforts to make things work out for the taxpayer. She always does. I am wary that budgetary authority will be there in the future, just because there seems to always be unintended consequences with actions like this. However, that will fall to the council to be sure of. So it will be our job to make sure that this is truly budget neutral going forward. When there's a request for another position in the next budget, we're going to have to be the ones to say no. So that's just the way that works. We have to understand that the cuts that are made now to make this position work and to make this position be funded and to make this be budget neutral like it's being proposed, because I do believe that there's value to this position, and I do believe that Mr. Kamich will bring a high level of performance to the taxpayers of Butte-Silver Bow and to the chief executive's office. But those cuts that are made now don't come back magically at budget time, and that will be up to the Council of Commissioners to oversee. And so we do take that responsibility seriously. And I have received an enormous amount of pushback on this from the people that I represent. So if I do support it, it will be with reservation. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Commissioner O'Neill has his hand up. Chief
Commissioner
Executive.
O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Chief Executive Gallagher. So when Commissioner Shea brings up cuts, we, in essence, we're not cutting jobs, right? I just want to if the people of record, we're not firing somebody or cutting them out of the job, right? So, let's just make that clear to the people of Butte right now. I want to nobody's getting canned at this moment. Is that correct? Thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill, that's correct. There's nobody that is losing their job because of this position being put in place. There is a realignment within the chief executive's office, but there is nobody that is going to lose a position out of this. Follow up, Commissioner O'Neill.
Follow up. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. My follow up on that is what we're losing from the other positions that for instance, I'm forgetting her name, Vankovich. Do I have that right? Mm-hmm. Some of them duties that she did, will Mr. Kamich take on some of them duties?
Commissioner O'Neill, I do look at some of the project management that we would look to have him possibly do going forward. We would work with Director Gleason on what some of those may be, or with Kathy Kennison, the IT director, on what the projects were there. But as we look at that, we will evaluate that position and if that should be, but that, even with that position gone, that doesn't affect on the ones that we're talking about currently. We're talking about the PBX positions that work directly in the chief executive's office. Commissioner O'Neill, follow up.
Thank you. Well, a follow up on that. I hate to compare this position to the crusher. Okay, and no disrespect to Mr. Kamich on that. I just this is my best way of explaining. We got rid of the crusher, which is I still think was a great idea. Are we going to get down the road 6 months later and say, going back to Commissioner Shea on, hey, now we need this other position, so we're going to jam here because we're throwing up this big salary? Are we at that moment? Will it come back to the Council of Commissioners to where we can discuss that, or is it going to just be something that's that's out of whack again? Are we going to just ride the 12 months out here and say, hey, this is what we got, this is what we have to work with?
Commissioner O'Neill, as that contract states, there is a 6-month probationary period and yearly evaluations on this position. So do we ride it out? There's the time that, is this position working out? With any position in Butte-Silver Bow, we have that in there. And I intentionally put this in to make sure that we have that protection going forward. Are we going to come and ask for a bunch more positions in the chief executive's office? No, I'm doing a realignment of the positions that are in there without having to change anything. Actually, I think it's more efficient. I think it's more in line with what the job in this position needs out of this office. As I said, this chief executive's office over time, and speaking with 4 of them since I've was elected, I've gone and talked to every one of our previous chief executives about this position, and how it has evolved. And so for me going forward, I think this is a critical position for the Chief Executive's office.
Thank you.
Commissioner Callahan is his hand up.
Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I just have one question for you that I've had some people ask me that, and I've heard you say numerous times during the campaign that you weren't in favor of the city manager and mayor. And I mean, majority of the council has been drilled on this numerous times. But I've had people ask me today that they're afraid that this could be a foot in the door for the start of a change or something like that. And I know you're not in favor of it, but could you just clarify for those folks that isn't what your intentions are, please?
Commissioner Callahan, thank you for that. Yeah, I am not in support of a city manager. I think that our form of government works well. I think the charter outlines the position that I'm proposing today. I think the biggest thing that has come out of this is the proposed salary that's gone on in here. And I'm proposing that salary because I feel of what the requirements that I'm going to ask of this person to be part of. I think it's to be accountable to the people. But this person in this position comes in and goes out with this position as well. So so again, essentially, this person is elected in with me and goes out with me. So there's no promise of anything going forward. There's no city manager type government here. And as I said, looking at the charter, and I looked at it closely, this is the way the charter is aligned. And some of the chief executives have put it as more of a clerical position. But, going back even to Don Peoples, when he had George Paul and stuff in here, he had a guy right alongside him that was doing exactly what kind of I'm looking at doing here.
Thank you. I just wanted the clarification. I've heard you several times that you weren't in favor of that, but it's better coming from you than me.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. I appreciate the clarification. Any other questions? Commissioner Shea.
Commissioner Fortune also, he had his hand up too.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, and I am sorry to be such a microphone hog tonight. I just wanted to speak to Commissioner O'Neill's, as far as saying cuts, I realize that we're not actually cutting the budget, but we are cutting money out of one budget to put it into another budget. So that was what I meant when I spoke to budget cuts, because taking money out of something that was intended for one purpose and moving it to another purpose, well, yes, that is within your purview, and certainly with our oversight, that was what I meant by that. So thank you for letting me clarify.
Can I follow up on
Commissioner Fortune first, I think.
Sorry,
Commissioner O'Neill.
You're on mute.
Sorry.
There you go.
I guess I just have a couple questions and maybe recommendations to appease the commissioners. My first question is, after 6-month evaluation, is there a raise increase, or what are the raise percentages with the job? And then I guess, do you guys feel confident that we can still cover the raise increases? And then I guess my suggestion, I think if it helps you, I think we should support you moving forward. But I guess my suggestion would be on a year evaluation. I just think it's tough if he only answers to you. I think to appease everyone, maybe have the commissioners evaluate it too, I guess, the job performance.
Commissioner Fortune. So to answer your couple of questions there, the first one is this position, there won't be a pay raise because they pass the probationary period, you get a pay raise. They'll get the normal pay raises that people will get yearly, whatever is decided through contracts for the non-union positions. This position will get the same raise that everybody else that is on a non-union position would get. So that would be benefits, anything that's increased with anybody else within Butte-Silver Bow, they would get that same increase for that on a yearly basis, like any other position. As far as the evaluation, I'm hesitant to do that, but here's where the evaluation can come from is that this position will be reporting to the council many times, and the council will be able to report to me their thoughts of how they think this position is working and the effectiveness that we're having in the community. I think the proof is in what we're going to do going forward, and that's why I feel strongly with this position and where we're going to go. I think with Mr. Cambich being, there will be reports where he'll be directly working with the council or reporting to the council at meetings and stuff. And that's where an evaluation and the council can speak to me directly on their thoughts of how they thought this position is going as well.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Sorge has his hand up.
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief Executive. You know, it sounds like that this is Chief Executive Gallagher is within all of his rights to hire who he wants. And, it sounds like the job duties, it's going to be a big job. He's going to be busier than all get-go. And he's sounds like he has vetted to where the funding is going to come from. We all have some concerns, and yes, we will have some, there's some discussion, will we have any say about future, if there's any possibilities of, trying to add more people? Yes, we would have some say in that during the budget session. So saying that, I'm going to make a motion that we approve communication number 2112 and place on file. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fisher or Commissioner Fortune?
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there anything on the question? Do we have commissioners' votes? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, could you please record the vote?
We have 10 yay and 2 nay.
I just want to say I thank you, and I want to share. I appreciate your support and I appreciate your concern, and we're going to show how this position works well for our government. All right, with that.
Motion passes, right, JP?
Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. So excited.
It's the most important part.
All right.
Okay.
All right, moving on. We are to Section 4, Ordinance and Resolutions, final reading. Resolution number 2020-77, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Resolution 2020-77 is a resolution authorizing and approving the transfer of the real property generally described as a portion of Certificate of Survey 1037B-RB, Tract B of South 26, Township 03, North, Range 09, West, within the City County of Butte-Silver Bow, Montana, to Warehouse Distribution of Butte LLC in accordance with the provisions of the Butte-Silver Bow Municipal Code and providing for an effective date herein. At this time, I move to place Council Resolution number 2020-77 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on placing 2020-77 on file, deemed fully read, and
just say on final reading.
On final reading.
There you
go. Anything on the question? Could I have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, can we have you please record the vote?
We have 12 yea and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Going on to section 5, ordinance and resolution suspension of the rules, final passage. Resolution number 2021-01. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of passing Council Resolution 2021-1 by waiving subsection 7 of Rule 36 of the Rules and Order of Business of the Council of Commissioners, thereby having it considered for advanced passage without reference to the Judiciary Committee. Can I have a second?
Second. I was trying to click my mute button. Sorry.
That's okay.
We have a motion and a second to move
To suspend.
to suspend the rules. Anything on the question? Can we have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, will you please record the vote?
We have 12 yea and 0 nay.
Motion passes.
Now I have to pass the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So now on that, I go to,
Me.
okay, go back to pass the resolution. Okay, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Resolution number 2021-1, a resolution amending the budget during the fiscal year in accordance with Section 7-6-4032, Montana Code Annotated, providing for an emergency budget appropriation. Appropriating, we need someone to mute their, okay. Appropriating unanticipated revenue to the Butte-Silver Law Enforcement Agency from the Montana Board of Crime Control Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding and providing for an effective date herein. And at this time, I would move to place Resolution 2021-01 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on motion deemed fully read and acted upon on final reading.
Right.
Anything on the question? Can we have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, can we please record the vote?
We have 12, let's see, it looks like we're missing one. What are we missing? Is it Eric?
Commissioner Mankins.
Oh, okay, thank you, Eric. Okay, we have 12 yea and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Now we go to any public comment on matters not on the agenda tonight. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. We're just checking. I don't see anything on the line right now. If anyone cares to call in, we're at 497-5009. Give it a minute or two. And it doesn't appear that we have any calls coming in, Chief Executive Gallagher.
Okay. So we'll move on to calendar and other meetings and events. Just for reference, we want you to everyone reference when those meetings will be, and most of them will be through WebEx. So moving forward, I would call for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Anything on the question?
Just all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, everybody.
Nice job, all you newbies. Good job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
And I want to have a special thanks to Cindy for giving me an outline and really helping me get through this. And thank you all to everyone for the long night.
You did a good job.